All right, welcome everybody to the Beer and Skittles podcast. This week, we want to take a pretty deep dive into the DC universe as a whole, with kind of what has happened, what is happening, and what's to come with the announcement of the new DC universe from James Gunn and Peter Safran.
Yeah, I think this new DC universe is so far looking like it's going to go in the right direction. They're taking not just their big heroes like they did in the old DCEU, and they're taking a lot of different groups, taking a lot of different paths, so that they're already branching out and not like going high speed focus to a team up movie like they did in the original DC universe.
Yeah,
and I think James Gunn, is the right person to do this. I mean, there probably would have been a lot of other names to come up, especially since James Gunn he's really like just a writer-director. He doesn't have any experience on giant projects like this where it's an entire universe, but I mean, who really does other than Kevin Feige? So I think it's interesting, but I think he's the right choice because he hasn't done anything bad for Marvel, and he really showed out for the Suicide Squad, so he's going to be diverse no matter what universe he's in.
Yeah, I mean, luckily he's not producing this entire franchise by himself. Like, he has Peter Safran there with him, so it's not just him. But I think, like you had said, James Gunn coming in is a good choice because he's shown himself to not just take what's popular and the most well-known characters and just do those. Obviously, he's already stated, like, we're not going to get away with not having Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, but they're doing the Authority and Creature Commandos and like even Swamp Thing. Like, we're going to get a diversified look at the DC universe, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, and he's taking on a decent amount of the writing role as well, which I think is good because he doesn't miss when he writes. Like, when you look back, even when he was doing Guardians for Marvel, it's an incredibly funny movie, but it knows the separation between the humor and the emotions, which can be something that is missed, which we were talking about this before we even got on, which is what's missing in Shazam. It doesn't know the right separation.
It's so funny that you say that, though, because I saw somebody with the same complaint that, James Gunn is just a joke. He doesn't know how to write something serious. And one of my favorite scenes, if I had to pick my top 10 scenes from superhero movies, one of my top 10 scenes is going to be the confrontation between Peacemaker and Rick Flag in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah. No, that's a really good one.
And not the fight sequence, like the section right before the fight when, keeping the peace is worth anything, even the life of a hero like yours. Like that whole scene is he can do serious. Also, look how, and I know you'll agree, how emotional was Yondu's death?
Oh, I mean, I might be in the minority. I might be in the minority here, and because everybody tells me I'm wrong. But Guardians 2 is possibly my favorite MCU movie. I'm not saying it's the best. Personally, my favorite MCU movie, and the reason for that is that it's funny. It's great all the way through. You have so much emotions going on because Peter finds his dad. His dad's a dick. Like, there's just all of this back and forth. And then the guy that had been painted as a bad guy this entire time as Yondu, you get that realization that he was doing it for Peter. And just, even though it's really silly, and when he has the arrow and he's going up, and he's like, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all." And, before he does that, he says, "I might not have been your father, but I'll always be your daddy." Like, it sounds goofy, but it plays into the role of Yondu that Michael Rooker was playing while still bringing out emotion because, the meaning behind that line means so much.
It's so funny, though, because it's not just Yondu. That, James Gunn is really good at the duality of, characters are not flat. They're not one-dimensional, Look, in Guardians 2, Drax is hilarious that entire movie. He insults everybody. It's great. But he has the serious moments. He has that moment with Mantis when he's like, "Oh, you are haunting. You are disgusting."
Yeah, and then he trails off and be like, "Yeah, people love you for you."
For you, yeah, exactly. And it's it's a funny moment, but then it turns into this really sweet moment at the same time. And I feel like you get a lot of that throughout Guardians. Even the Guardians holiday special,
which was great.
Which was great. And the Suicide Squad. So people try to turn around like, oh, James Gunn does. No. He's going to be a really good choice for this. Plus, he's also not afraid of working with other people who have different ideas and who aren't the same. Like, he's not afraid of bringing in people from the old DC universe. Like, he's still in talks with Ben Affleck to work on a project if it's the right project, because he knows that Ben is such a huge fan as well. It's like, yeah, he's not going to play Batman anymore, but what can we still have him do? Because Ben is a great director.
Yeah, and I think what's also going to make James Gunn so great at running this is that he's not afraid to be different. You know?
Yeah.
Because it would be so easy to say, let's follow the Marvel formula, which is what they wanted to do the first time around. And it's not going to work because everybody's seen it, and you're not going to do it better than them. You're not going to take what they made and make it better. But what you can do is find something in your own lane and run with it. And James Gunn is great at bringing in new characters, bringing out different personalities, changing the tones of your movies and stuff like that. So instead of taking that PG, Marvel, big blockbuster kind of feel to a movie, he's going to give you people you've never heard of. He's going to bring in jokes. Who knows? We'll probably get a rated R movie from DC a lot faster than it took for it to do for Marvel.
100%.
You know, and they've already said Swamp Thing is going to be a horror movie, which is something we haven't got from Marvel. We haven't really got that in the hero universe at all. I mean, they kind of classified New Mutants as a thriller, but that was... It missed the mark. It missed the mark entirely. So it's already showing he's like, I'm going to do different things. And I think it's proven to us that hero movies that don't feel like superhero movies typically get your top spots. Like Logan was a Western. The Batman
so good.
Was a detective film, a detective thriller. Like, it's movies like that tend to bring the most out of you. And that's why I love Guardians as well, because it was the first to go really hard into comedy. And again, so it felt different. It felt better. And I think he's going to bring a lot of that, where we're basically going to have a franchise with a million different genres in it.
Yeah, and I think that's what we need. I mean, one of the things that, like, Marvel has its formula and it works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But at the same time, having the diversity and having the different types of movies, even within Marvel, when you talk about what are the best Marvel movies, you know, Captain America: The Winter Soldier is considered one of the best, but it's a thriller, you know, it's a spy thriller. It's really good. Guardians, like you said, it's another really good. That's different. I think you really touched on the ones like Logan is a Western. That one's fantastic.
Fantastic. Probably the best superhero movie
best
we've
Fox,
ever gotten.
Definitely
the best Fox one. By far. I think anybody's top 5. To me, it's probably the best. It's just when you're talking about movies as a whole, I think that's where you get the better argument, because people will say like The Dark Knight is a superhero movie, but let's not act like that isn't because of the performance of Heath Ledger. Because sometimes a certain
carries the movie.
And I feel the same way about like Spider-Man 2. It's a superhero movie, but Doc Ock was done really well. Even for the same thing as Spider-Man 1, William Dafoe does an amazing job as the Green Goblin. He reprises that again and does it even better this time. But we're not here to talk about Marvel. So we have the slate here. And what would you say is the thing you're most excited to see that they've already announced?
Well, because I'm biased, and I know we're already getting it, but the Batman, the Brave and the Bold is probably one of my most anticipated. And for one specific reason, the Bat Family, which I know we talked about before when we did our first episode on the Batman. I don't know how close we are to getting the Bat Family in the Reeves-verse anyway. Starting out and getting that makes me excited. Aside from that, Superman legacy, like finally getting Superman back, I'm really, really excited for.
Yeah, it'll be cool. Which it kind of sucks because I know it gets a mixed review, but I love Man of Steel. It's a
Yep.
different take on Superman, and I feel like it seems more realistic than the idealistic hero that's always has a smile on his face and does the right thing, and there is no wavering of his moral compass and whatnot. Taking the most powerful person that humanity has ever seen and saying that everything is hunky dory for him doesn't always seem like it's the most realistic, which is why I really liked Man of Steel. Like, this guy has things that he struggles with. He isn't always going to beat everybody single-handedly and so fast, and he wants to do the right thing, but it's not always that easy, and that's what Man of Steel kind of encompasses for me, and I wish that would be kind of expressed more for Superman.
I think if we're talking greatest scenes too, Man of Steel has one of the best scenes in a superhero movie.
When he
And that's
snaps
the end.
Zod's neck. Yeah.
When he has to kill Zod, because you can see the pain in his eyes. Like, this is the last thing he wants to do, but Zod gives him absolutely no choice. You know, if you love them, you'll kill for them, right? And like, it's like Zod testing his devotion to humanity, and it's such a powerful moment that, like, when he breaks down right after.
No, that's a great one. I do think that definitely gets into like a top 10 for best superhero moments. But for me, honestly, I'm looking forward to some of the more for projects that we haven't seen anything for yet. For some reason, I think Waller's going to be great. I think it's really going to give us a different tone.
Waller's going to also be great no matter what, because Viola Davis is continuing to play Waller.
Oh, so yeah. She's going to do amazing. And we don't really have information on what Waller's going to be about, but I don't think that they'll take a bad direction in it, and I think it's going to seem like a really different kind of project. Another one is Booster Gold for me, because I would love to see their take with Booster Gold. He's kind of like he's not like one of the most popular heroes, but for people that know Booster Gold, typically love Booster Gold.
So for those that don't know, Booster Gold is such an odd character, because Booster Gold's from the future. He has no powers. It's all technology, but he couldn't be a hero in the time he was from, because Booster Gold is really just a loser. So he goes back in time where the technology he has is so advanced so that he could then be a hero. Like, this guy, it's the story of the guy who's trying really, really hard to do something, and just like prove his worth. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. So he's definitely going to have that comedic element to him. I mean, he's really funny and campy, and like, he's one of those guys that, like, he thinks he's the poster boy, but he's really not. So he always wants to do interviews. He wants the public eye, and he's like smiling and giving thumbs up to everybody. So I think that'll be really fun. And like, one of like people's favorite dynamics in DC, for people that watch it and read it and stuff like that, is Booster Gold and Blue Beetle is like so they're like that.
With that, let's take a step back and look at what is on the slate that's coming out right now that's part of the DC extended universe. So we know The Flash is coming out. Well, Shazam is coming out first. And then The Flash, then Aquaman, Blue Beetle. The Flash, we know, is going to be the reset point for going forward. I don't know. I think they didn't give a hard answer on whether or not Zachary Levi, Jason Momoa, and even where Blue Beetle is going to sit in the new DC universe going forward. Because, in my opinion, if they were to sit up there and say, yeah, we're putting out these movies because they were already filmed, they don't matter going forward. Nobody's going to go see them. And then they're going to lose money. Mm-hmm. And you can't cause your own film to tank. So as of right now, it's like, oh yeah, some of these people can come back. They might come back. I think it's going to depend on how well the movie's received, how much money it makes. If Shazam and Aquaman tank, we most likely will not see Zachary Levi and Jason Momoa in those roles again.
Which I don't really want them in those roles again. I wasn't impressed by the first Shazam movie. Zachary Levi wasn't really believable for me, and even when they casted him, I didn't think that he was the right person for there. I also just didn't like the writing for the Shazam movie, how they brought in the whole Shazam family
right away.
and I felt like it was, I think it was too early to do that. I think Billy should have had his own movie where it shows that he can overcome adversity and beat the bad guy by himself first.
Yeah.
And then at some point you bring in the family. So I didn't love that ending. I feel like it took away from the power of Shazam. And then the first Aquaman was great. Jason Momoa is great.
Yeah.
It's a different take on Aquaman. It makes him seem cooler because he's always the butt of a joke. That he's the guy that, I talk to fish, like he's that guy. So he doesn't really get that respect, which he actually is really powerful. Like he's a Wonder Woman level threat, but because of what his powers are, nobody wants to give him that credit. So Jason Momoa gave it kind of a seriousness to the character that people kind of respect more.
He also made him more badass. I mean, it's Jason Momoa's look that made him like, oh, I'm not going to mess with this guy.
Yeah, 100%. Because they even brought in the comic accurate costume for him, and it
which
looked
honestly
amazing.
Looked great.
It looked amazing. Because it's a corny costume. It's like Mysterio and the MCU. It's Aquaman. Like there's certain people that you're like, I don't know how that's gonna work. They did it to a T and it worked. It was
and
great.
It looked great.
But there's been the rumors flying around, and I think they're like the DC universe is on it too, with Momoa playing Lobo. And I think that's such a better fit for him. I think he'd be like, even if you just like look at him in his personal life, it's Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool. It's like the personality matches so much for him to be a real person. Like, it's like, why are you like this? I don't know, but I love it. Play the role.
Yeah, I think it's a good fit for him, and we'll just have to wait and see. I know that Gunn has stated that nobody's going to be playing more than one character. So it's either he's going to keep playing Aquaman or, we're resetting him and he's going to play Lobo. And then we'll get a recast for Aquaman.
Yeah. However, I would say if there was a time that you could have somebody play two characters, one of them would be for Lobo.
Yeah. And Lobo's such a cool character too. And I think it's a matter of time because he is a popular character. It's just a matter of time before he shows up. With the diversity of like looking at the setup that Gunn has, I'd say there's a really high probability that Lobo shows up soon. Same with characters that like are part of like what we know as like mainstay DC characters that just haven't been around, like Martian Manhunter.
Oh, where I need Martian Manhunter when the transformation. For those of you guys that aren't giant comic readers, DC does a lot of universe like altering events, and one of them was the New 52. And that's where they kind of replaced Martian Manhunter as one of the big seven in the Justice League and replaced him with Cyborg. And since then, he's kind of faded in the background of most DC media, which Martian Manhunter is an amazing character. He has strength and speed feats, like as high as Wonder Woman's, if not higher, while having the mental, like, because he's a telepath as well. And he has the capacity as a telepath to bring down the likes of guys like Superman. He's an amazing character. He's really deep because he feels as if he doesn't fit in. There's a lot of kind of social status in there with him. Like just a lot of story that like really works for him. And I wish he was still on the Big Seven in Justice League, especially because I liked Cyborg better as a Titan. But so I would love to see Martian Manhunter come back, and I think he would work really well on the big screen.
And I think there's a lot of places. I know that at this point, like, Marvel took time, it built up, and before we even started seeing crossover, like these characters were getting all these solo projects and they weren't crossing over. I don't think there's a need for that. Obviously, don't jump straight into Justice League, but which they're not doing. But there is potential for these characters to just cross over. They all live in the same universe. Why wouldn't they be meeting prior to a team up movie? So there's a Lantern show that's in development with Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart as the main characters. Who's to say Martian Manhunter doesn't show up in that, even as a cameo or in like some small capacity as an intro to Martian Manhunter,
or at least them showing the Martians, because he's not the only one. There's many of Martian Manhunter just seems to be like one of the only good ones. For some reason.
It's the same with like Waller. We don't know what direction or where they're going to go with it, but what other villains might we see in the Waller show?
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be big and small. You know what I mean? Like Weasel, who's actually going to be in Creature Commandos. So like what characters will we see? Minor characters.
Which is another thing that, since you brought up Creature Commandos and whatnot and having that crossover, is what's going to be cool that I don't know if we've ever really seen before is having an animation live action crossover. DC is having animation and live action, saying it's all part of the same universe. However, it's not going to be like, oh, well, it'll matter later. This character could appear the next movie in a live action with the same actor playing them.
Who did the voice. Yep.
That did the voice. And I think that's really cool because then it gets people into your animation. Your animation matters. Like, there's a lot.
And Marvel couldn't even do that. Like, they did What If, and they couldn't even cast Robert Downey Jr. to do the voice of Iron Man. They had to find somebody else who could talk like him. So I think it is really cool that animation is important, and maybe that'll give people a deeper appreciation for animation. We've talked about it before. Guillermo del Toro talks about it all the time, where animation is not a genre; it's a medium. It's not for kids. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a kid's thing. It's a medium. It's same as live action. It's just a different way to tell the story. And I think it'll be really cool to see that, because DC's always shined when it came to animation.
Oh, they have been amazing. I mean, Young Justice, Teen Titans, all of the Batman that we've had, like Batman the Animated Series, etc.
Even Batman the Brave and the Bold.
Batman the Brave and the Bold was a good one. The old Justice League cartoon that we had, Justice League Unlimited, the Superman cartoon that we had. They've always done great. And let's also not forget the DC animated universe, where they were just putting out animated movies constantly. And they were, for the most part, they are great. They're killing it with animation. So it'll be cool to see them kind of bring it all together.
Yeah, I think looking at animation too, you can't disqualify the Harley Quinn show, which is hilarious.
I love the Harley Quinn show.
And what's really nice is Harley Quinn is sticking around. What I think is really cool is that they are still continuing other projects that will not be a part of the DCU, which they're labeling as Elseworlds, which is a term pulled straight out of the comics. Stuff that is happening on one of the other Earths. I think that's really cool. It also is super interesting that, like, we're getting these Elseworld projects that are going to be happening at the same time. They won't have an impact on the new DCU. There is potential for them to cross over because of the whole idea of the multiverse, which Marvel is in the midst of a full multiverse saga right now. We haven't had a single Elseworld style thing except for What If, and that doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I mean,
you get what I mean? Like, we haven't had a single thing where they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do like a whole like ultimate universe type of deal, and like DC's like, yeah, no, we're gonna do that. Like, the Reevesverse is still fully happening.
Their advantage and disadvantage is just that they have been doing this trial and error for so long, and they've had some success, and they don't want to give up that success just because they're starting something new, which I think is great for them. That's the perfect way to go about this. Like, just because you're starting this whole new DC universe doesn't mean you have to get rid of the Joker or the Reevesverse or anything else that you have going on, because the audience is smart enough to know.
And it's super funny because there are, most of the CW shows have been canceled at this point. They're over. The Flash is ending finally, which is really the end of all that. Superman and Lois is still happening because it's fairly new. It's got a few seasons, but it's it's still doing well. The viewership is still high. Teen Titans Go is like it's just going to continue forever, apparently.
Somehow.
Yeah, I honestly, it is entertaining. It's not what I would want for Teen Titans, but it is. It is entertaining.
It's very overplayed, and it was very disappointing to me when it first came out because I thought Teen Titans, we're getting another Teen Titans because obviously we grew up on the original Teen Titans show, and then I got that shit,
and it's definitely
of these little minifigure, big head people with the.
Did you see the crossover?
Jokes.
Did you see the crossover they did? And even the one before the crossover, the Teen Titans Go to the Movies, was hilarious. Like, it had no business being as funny as it was, but it even poked fun at like all the tropes and like the different things of like just how ridiculous the DC universe can be at times. Like there's that scene when Batman's chasing them, and every time they blow up his car, and then he's on a motorcycle, and then he's on roller skates. It's like, you really can't stop Batman. Yeah, that's really, really exciting. Just to see all of the different things like continuing, and even with, I think with the Flash, and I say very loosely, adapting Flashpoint, the whole idea of the multiverse is there, and like you said, all these trials and errors, there's potential for them to always pull and do cameos of anyone.
I mean, the Flash is going to be an interesting project to come out, to say the least. A lot of positive and negative commotion around the Flash. Early viewers are saying that it is a fantastic film. People that haven't seen the film yet said, I'm not seeing that shit because Ezra Miller's in it.
But I'm hearing from all of the test screenings, which in contrast to the test screenings now that are happening for Aquaman, which are saying Aquaman 2 is one of the, if not the worst DC movie put out. The Flash is getting phenomenal reviews. They're saying it's one of the best superhero movies they've ever seen, which, might be a little bit biased, but even still, not what I would have expected.
Well, it's going to be hit or miss for them, and to me, it's most likely going to be a miss. And even if it was, I don't think it was going to matter. I think there's so much talk around Ezra that it doesn't matter. The Flash is recasted. The Flash is no longer.
The Flash
him.
is most likely
moving
going to get
forward
recasted.
without him. And I think it'll be great. I do think that it could possibly get the reviews, but I think there's going to be enough people not seeing it.
Well, what they're also pandering to though is, look, they're bringing back Zod, which for people who love Man of Steel, Zod was fantastic. They're also bringing back Batman, and not just Ben Affleck, which is, hit or miss for everybody. Michael Keaton's coming back. So they're pandering to an even older crowd by saying, here's Batman, like the Batman, which will be super interesting to see.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I've seen a lot of debate on social media, and some people are like, see the movie, and some people are like, you better not see that movie. So there's going to be a lot of controversy around it, which honestly is some of the best PR you can get, because people are talking about your movie for free.
No such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah, but also in that same negative light, it's people convincing you not to see the movie.
True.
Personally, I'm going to see the movie.
I'm going to see it.
I'm like, it's terrible. I think they should recast Ezra. However, this was already filmed, and there was a lot of hard work that has already gone into this movie. I mean, for every second that you see in a movie is multiple people putting hours on hours on hours of work in. And if it's going to be a good movie, I'm going to watch it, because he's not the only person that was in that production.
And the controversy aside, Ezra is not a bad actor.
Oh, no, he's a great actor, and I think he'll kill it. Maybe don't use him. Stop using him for a while. There is repercussions to what you do, but I'm not going to be the person to shoot you down. Like, it's just, if you have a project you already made, I'm going to watch it.
Even if they decide that they want to, that they're going to continue to use Ezra, they're not a bad choice either. Like, performance-wise, there's the scene that was actually cut in the Joss Whedon film. But the scene in the Snyder cut version, when the Flash is, time traveling to, kind of fix what was happening, they killed it. Like, that, it was dope. So I think it'll also depend. It's going to depend on a lot of things, on whether or not Ezra's brought back or they recast. And I think it's going to depend on the same things, on whether or not they bring back Momoa as Aquaman, Levi as Shazam, and I don't even know where Blue Beetle's going to even land, because it's weird.
I think it depends for Blue Beetle, because it was slated and filmed for the DCEU, but if it doesn't have any cameos in it, it wouldn't be that hard just to say, nope, it's for
part
this
of
universe.
the DC, yeah.
So, I mean, which I hope they do a good job for it. Blue Beetle, I think, is amazing. A fan favorite of mine, personally. He's a kid that can't control his powers because his powers are controlled by the scarab on his back, and they don't agree. And he goes through that struggle of trying to figure it out while still growing up, as well as he's a Hispanic, like a young Latino man. So then there's also that goes along with it. So while it gives us representation and it does it pretty damn well, he also has a lot of story there, and he's a total powerhouse that just doesn't know how to use his powers yet. So he's very interesting. So I would love to see them continue using him. But I mean,
and I think he has some of the same, not in the same way, but because of his age, it's similar to Spider-Man, where, he's a late teen and he's, trying to finish high school and go through school, and then he gets these powers, and how does he, same way with Peter, how do you juggle all of these different things at the same time? There's not enough time in the day, as well as trying to then keep it a secret from everybody, and it gets hard. I hope that one aspect I loved about, and I like Blue Beetle in the comics, is this constant back and forth, because even DC apparently can't decide whether or not the Scarab is alien technology or it's magic. And the last run for Blue Beetle, when DC Rebirth happened, it was, Dr. Fate showed up and said, it's magic again. And as the story progressed, it was not that it's magic, it was alien technology, but when it crash landed on Earth, it was infused with magic that then unlocked certain aspects of it, gives its extra advantage against magic users, as well as what disconnected it from the rest of its kind, the Reach. And so then years later, once it gets to Jaime, he's not a bad guy like the rest of its kind.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's one of those kind of pick your lanes kind of deals, though, which I guess they're starting to now. But, I mean,
I think I always liked the DC Universe for just the idea of all of these different aspects coming together and coexisting at the same time. And I feel like you don't see it as much in Marvel. But, look at the Titans, Starfire's an alien from another planet. You have Raven, who is, one of the most powerful magic users on the planet. Cyborg is this cyborg, you have Beast Boy, who has, he's a metahuman, and then Robin, who sidekick of Batman, he's got zero powers whatsoever. And then even on the League, the same difference of Aquaman, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, they're all these different aspects of the universe that just come together and they work. They work just as well together as they did separately.
Yeah. DC does bring together a lot of different characters, but for them in the comics currently, I feel like they honestly could diversify more with their slate. I mean, if you see what they have coming out currently, trying to think how many runs they have right now. Might be around like 13 something. Decent amount of runs going on right now, but almost all of them are Batman or Superman related.
In the Bat family. Yeah.
It all revolves around Batman, and then a couple Superman runs, and then like maybe like 2 Wonder Woman runs, and then like just some side projects that they throw in there. So I they should be able to go back comic wise into exploring a lot more characters. I get it. The ones they're doing make the most money for them without them having to try so much. But even like main characters aren't getting runs for them right now. Guys like Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, like there's a lot of heroes right now that just don't really be getting runs. Even though they're one
there's
of
a
their
lot
most
of
popular people.
there's a lot of characters too that just, and it's weird because every time DC does a universe shift, they do an event and all of a sudden characters just aren't around anymore. Like we've seen it happen with Wally, and between Wally and Barry, you know, they don't coexist at the same time.
No, they come in.
One
and
of them
out
is always
constantly because they're always part of the reason why the world is going to shit, or they're one of the first people to find out that something happened, and then they're gone, and it's just weird.
Yeah. You know, Martian Manhunter's been on the back burner for a long time. I know it sounds odd because we just saw him in Shazam, but like Hawkman and
Black Adam.
Yeah. But seeing him, like he comes and goes in the comics, you know, really cool character. What is some other? The Teen Titans have books. The Titans have a book currently happening in DC. I would love to see a Titans project.
A good Titans project?
I would love to see
We
really
have a Titans
good
project.
Yeah.
We have a Titans project.
We won't
It's
talk
not
about
good.
that. It's not
It's
good.
not good at all.
It's not good at all. Titans, Young Justice, like something like that along the lines of having the younger team.
I think it'll be great, and I think it's just a matter of time, and I don't think it'll be that much of a time.
Yeah, no, me neither.
We didn't say this, but Batman Brave and the Bold, one of the movies we talked about, is going to be a movie with Batman and the newest and current Robin, Damian, which is Batman's son, the son of Talia al Ghul and Batman. Which is, so he's kind of the last in the line right now. There's a lot of different people in the Bat family. There's been a couple different Robins or whatever. But if you want to say a decent amount. But it goes Dick, who becomes Nightwing. He's usually the one that is pictured in a lot of media.
Are you going in order right now?
Yeah. Jason, who is everybody knows as Red Hood, who's become a fan favorite as of recent, and it has been getting in a lot more media, especially as Red Hood. He doesn't usually get as much attention as Robin because he was kind of short-lived.
Yep.
Technically, Stephanie, who was Robin for like 2 weeks. And
I wanted to make sure you didn't skip anybody. I wanted to see.
Yeah, I was gonna skip Stephanie until I heard you say that. Not that she's a bad character, but her run as Robin was really nothing.
I like Stephanie as spoiler.
Yeah, she's good as spoiler. Just her, even like Batman says it. He's like, you should have never been Robin. And then after that, Tim, who's the one that is Robin, kind of around like the Red Hood era of things. When Jason comes back as Red Hood, and
Still
he's
currently
also,
Robin.
yeah, still currently Robin, technically Red Robin. He has the stupidest name. We'll talk about that later. And he's usually the second most pictured one after Dick. Like if you watch Young Justice, the first Robin is Dick, who's then Nightwing, which you see him evolve. And then you see Tim come in and take that role over as Robin. And then now the current Robin, Damian. So they're picking up at the end of the line here. The most recent Robin that we have, the probably second newest member of the Bat family after Duke, is the person that they're running with in the Batman movie. So Dick's already Nightwing. Jason, they could switch it around to make him come back as Red Hood later, but I'm guessing he might already be Red Hood unless they want to adapt that storyline. Tim is probably already Red Robin and semi doing his own thing or running a team under Dick or whatever. So there's a lot that's probably already going on. And if you're going to show Nightwing as a singular character, which I think they will, because I honestly think he's probably in the top 10 of most famous DC characters, especially as somebody who started as a sidekick. His following has grown immensely. So if you're having him, 100% you're going to have the Titans at some point in some way.
And I think if they wanted to do, if they're not, because you can still adapt the Red Hood storyline in flashbacks. Like,
yeah, you could
you're
adapt it through flashbacks. You can give Red Hood his own solo movie, to be honest.
Well, that's
and then
the
give
Outlaws.
those. Yeah, you could do Outlaws.
If you're doing an older Titans with Dick, and he's got this older crew that he used to run with, you know, Donna and all of them, and then there's the younger guard coming in, and maybe you change it up a little, and maybe because Blue Beetle's already getting a movie, maybe Beetle's part of this newer Teen Titans,
which I would like.
Which would be super cool, and Damian being part of that team and Dick having to work with him as a leader of the Teen Titans, and Dick used to lead the team years and years and years ago. You can have Starfire even crossing over into being a member of the current Outlaws with Jason. Same with the way Roy Harper is as Red Arrow or Arsenal, whatever name they want to give him at the time. They used to be members of the Titans, and now they're working with Jason.
Yeah.
Or you go with the newer run and have Artemis and Bizarro.
Which actually, the relationship between Red Hood and Bizarro is actually amazing for no reason.
So, like, wholesome. It's so wholesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we have Titans on the way. We definitely, I think, have Titans in the works, especially, I don't think they'll not take the opportunity to explore Dick as a character, because, like I said, I think his following is huge. I'm one of them. He's my favorite hero, like, of all time. And you're right, too, as well. The relationship between Damian and all of the other Robins before him is really interesting.
It is.
Because, for those of you who don't know, Batman didn't know he had a kid till he was like 10. So he was raised up with the Al Ghuls, and he just being trained
as a killer.
He was trained as a killer at birth. So he was secluded. He doesn't really get a lot of like social cues and a lot of other things like that. And all he focuses on is, I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to kill that guy. So he
has his grandfather's view of how to stop crime and end crime.
Yeah, and it very well takes over him, because he's not like any of the other ones where he might care about school or like really anything beyond.
Because he's also smarter than like the average 13-year-old.
Oh yeah, for sure. Not for no reason. Again, he was being trained as a martial artist and a tactician and an assassin since, again, he was probably old enough to walk, which for him was probably like 2 months or something with all that training.
Yeah.
But yeah, so his relationship with them is really interesting. Him having like the most in common with Jason, but then him being taken under the wing of Dick, because he became Robin when Dick became Batman for a short while. So using him as a mentor figure, and then kind of the clash between him and Tim, because he just like doesn't respect Tim.
Right.
It's just I think it's going to be very interesting. So you're going to see all those characters.
There's a lot of potential too, because a few things, like jumping into where we are with, in Grant Morrison's run for, the Brave and the Bold. So like you had mentioned, all of these Robins. Now, I don't know that, I'm not saying that we're going to get all of these members of the Bat family, but the potential is that all of these people were Robin. They now have their own identities and they're running around, right? Well, you also have to remember, Barbara was Batgirl forever ago. You know what I mean? So, like, I would assume Barbara's around. But there's also the potential for Stephanie and for Cassandra to also be somewhere in this universe. We might not see them in the first movie, but they might be mentioned even, of like, Barbara's running around with, because we could end up getting another Birds of Prey movie, or something where it's like Barbara's leading them and it's Cassandra and it's we Stephanie.
Got Batgirl, Batwoman, Spoiler, Huntress, Duke.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of people in the Bat family. that can be
because
explored.
we're getting Damien, we know for a fact we're getting Talia, we're getting Raish, we're getting the League of Assassins. But Talia, at this point, she's going to drop off Damien. So where is Bruce? Where's Catwoman in this scenario? With the Reevesverse happening, I don't know how much
I don't think they'll dive into that. I don't think they're going to really dive into it.
I mean, but you can't discount Catwoman from.
No, you can't. But you might wait a while.
Maybe.
You might not just bring her in right away, because you have to have that separation at least. That's the problem with running two different universes. You might not be able to tell every story you want to do, because it might already be being told, and people don't want to see the same thing twice so close.
Yeah.
But on the DC movie front as well, what are some other projects that you would hope that they do? Like, if you were in that room with James Gunn and he's asking your opinion of what is another movie we should add to our slate, or what's our phase 2 slate, what pitches are you giving
him? Based off of what we have, I would say we'd have to go. We keep mentioning it, but Titans is definitely something that I would add on to that slate. I'm just looking at to see what we have in the works. Reach Commandos, Land of Paradise Lost, Booster Gold. I would love to see more of the Lanterns. I know, and it's hard to say exactly what my phase 2 launch would be for Lanterns, because I don't know how much we're going to get in the actual show. I know we're getting Paradise Lost, which is set. It's a prequel. I think it's before the birth of Wonder Woman. So like, we definitely need a Wonder Woman movie, and I would want Wonder Woman to like fully embrace like the Greek mythology aspect. It's the one thing that I wish the Wonder Woman movies had did in the DC extended universe. And it's funny because you're actually seeing some of that in the new Shazam movie. I don't know if you've seen the trailers. Like there's the Manticore, and like there's like, and I get it, Shazam is also a part of that, but I would really love to see like Wonder Woman and like make Circe the villain or something. Like fully embrace this like mystical aspect of it, and not just throwing her into like the modern age. Like, oh yeah, she's just fucking stopping world wars constantly. Which I would really, and Constantine is one of the ones that I would really like to see. And I don't know where it's going to be, because I know the Constantine 2 movie with Keanu Reeves is happening as an Elseworlds project. So I don't know where that'll end up landing.
I don't know. Constantine is a good one though. He's a great character, and he ties together a lot of characters because he tends to travel back and forth between a lot of people. Him as a magical detective basically interacts with a lot of people. For me personally, I agree with you. Titans 100% gets a run. It's automatic moneymaker. Do it right. You got it, and it sets up so many other storylines for you. We've already mentioned him a couple times, but Martian Manhunter. I would love to see Martian Manhunter coming down to Earth, trying to blend in with society while trying to find his way here and figuring out who the superheroes are to help him. All of that, and him maybe being seen as a villain at first because he looks very different. I think that would be a great movie to do, kind of having him as like a finding your way kind of movie. Like a journey kind of thing. I think that would be really cool. I would love to see a Justice Society movie, kind of seeing, which we already kind of got with Black Adam, showing like Justice Society, but like I would want an actual Justice Society movie. Like, this is the early to mid 1900s. Like, this is Jay Garrick Flash. Like, this is, possibly Hawkman. These are like some of the heroes that we're going to say have been around. Possibly the first Green Lantern, the red and green suit, which can play into the Lanterns even more, saying like maybe he's the first Earth Lantern we've had. So a lot of different things there. As well as that, I would love to see more exploration with the Lanterns. I know we're getting Hal and John I want Kyle. I want Kyle Rayner.
See, there's not like there's a lot of characters that I would love to see, and it's not specific. I guess they could be specific projects, but seeing them in other things, like seeing Kyle, and that's why, like, depending on what they do with the lanterns in this show, like, I want to see Kyle at some point. He's
I
arguably the most powerful lantern.
And we were talking about this earlier this week. Everybody don't like Kyle no more. Kyle was a real big deal. Kyle, like, I think I want to say the Green Lantern's just kind of most popular run is Blackest Night. And in that series, Kyle's the main character. He's the one that gets the White Lantern ring and it eradicates and like all the Black Lanterns and saves the day. But now nobody likes Kyle. Everybody just wants to see Hal and John.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I think it's just the fact that he hasn't been written, he hasn't been around in so long. He's got the same issue that Martian Manhunter has, you know, and Hawkman, and Hawkgirl. They're just not around, so it's like, oh yeah, you know,
that's what forget. I think. Bringing in characters like these, even though at some point they were popular and they're not so different, can still give you that feel that James Gunn likes to have of having a different character.
There's a lot of other characters that I would love to see, and I wouldn't necessarily give them their own projects, but maybe making them part of like the Teen Titans or Young Justice, however you decide to name that team. Firestorm would be a cool character to see.
Firestorm's a good one.
We've already talked about Blue Beetle, but also Beast Boy, Raven, Starfire. These are all great characters.
I hope they bring in the original Blue Beetle as well, because again, would love to see that
Ted.
Interaction. Yeah, Ted with Booster, as well as seeing his interactions with Jaime. I think they would both be great. So.
Yeah, I think so. Actually, I'd have to double check. I think Ted might be in the Blue Beetle movie at some point, which would make sense. Another character that I would personally like to see would be Captain Atom.
Captain Atom,
he's such a powerful character. You know, he's your Dr. Manhattan. I would really, really like to see that. This idea of the nuclear man. That would be a really cool story. There was a comic run back in like 2017 that they did, the fall and rise of Captain Atom, and it was kind of like a lot of flashbacks, but then like it's like the modern day of him, and kept flashing back to his come up. So that would be a really cool, like extremely powerful character, because I don't think Superman is powerful. You need to address that, and you're going to make sure that he is as your staple. But there are other characters that exist in the DC universe that could give Superman a run for his money. Especially now, like if you were looking at the golden age of comics, yeah, absolutely not. Nobody could touch Superman.
Oh,
but
yeah, no. I mean,
but nowadays,
the gold standard.
That has shifted, which I think is cool. You know, you want to have other people that are, you're making the Justice League. You can't just have Superman be the most powerful member. It's like, then what's the point of the team if Superman could just stop everything himself? And that's why you have Martian Manhunter, you have Wonder Woman, you have even Shazam has been powered up. You have that great fight scene in, you know, Kingdom Come between Superman and Shazam. So there's a lot.
Shazam is told to be as powerful as Superman.
Yeah.
But just so happens Shazam is being ran by a child. So there's always that balance with him. And he never gets older. It's crazy. He has the Stewie syndrome. He just never gets older.
I mean, it's like the Robins, you know? Damian was 13 for so long.
No, but they always get aged up when someone else dies. That's how it works.
Yeah. Yep. It's like it's like the Titans. Like they aged up.
Beast Boy and Raven always get
Beast
that
Boy and
DH
Raven are
treatment.
just like always young for no reason.
We got to think
so
like
weird.
Shazam, like Billy Batson has been around for a long time. Like he is.
He shouldn't be
OG of a
transforming
character.
into Shazam anymore. Like he should just be
No.
Shazam.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, he's damn near an OG character of DC. Like he's been around for
Yeah.
a long time. Like the Marvels is a series that almost kind of kicked off DC.
But let me
and
ask
he
you
is
this.
still that age.
Let me ask you this. What are some villains? Because now we're on the track of getting DC in a place. It's not just the heroes. What villains do you want to see showing up across these different projects? And it
That's
doesn't
gonna
have to be
be-
specific. Like, you don't have to be like, oh, I want to see Brainiac in Superman. But, like, what villains do you
that's
want
a
to see
good
them
one.
tackle? Yeah, no, I mean,
that's a good one.
Brainiac is...
Brainiac hasn't been used yet because anytime Superman gets brought up, everybody wants to go Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
But if you want to go a number 2 villain that I think is just as good, Brainiac is right up there. I don't think they should do kind of a big bad like that for the first Superman movie. I would think of like a villain like Parasite, or just just somebody like more. They don't have to be so grand scale for it to be such a good movie. So I would love to see them take kind of like that lower class people like Parasite or Livewire or whatever. I think would be really cool for Superman. Batman's going to be tricky, but I think while we've already seen it, it's already been a while since they're initially bringing in Damian. I'm going to say Raish in the entire organization would be great villains for that. It's going to be interesting to see what they do for the Lantern movie. I want to see if they bring in the Sinestro Corps for that, or even the Red Lantern Corps, because they go against both of them pretty often.
And I know that we talked about having Kyle, and obviously you're not going to jump in the comics. Kyle got Hal's ring, and that's when he became the Green Lantern. So we're going to build up to this, but I definitely want to see the other Lantern Corps. I want to see all of the emotional spectrum.
Yeah. I would love to see the Indigo, Violet, Red, the Sinestro Corps, Orange, because I mean, like, Larfleeze is a cool character. Atrocitus is amazing for the Red Lantern. He's incredibly powerful.
I could see Atrocitus being a villain in
Sinestro. Probably. Oh, I could see that as well. I hope they don't do him dirty though. I hope he's like almost big bad level and not like a thug they come across.
Yeah.
Sinestro is going to end up being like a big bad of the Lantern Corps, since he was the Yellow Lantern and basically overtook the entire thing to then make it the Sinestro Corps. So it'll be really interesting, and there's a lot they can do there with the lanterns because all of the different colors are constantly going at each other, since they're all in different ends of the emotional spectrum, and greens are known as like the neutral. Like we're here, well, and blue, because blues are just evolved greens. But then everybody else kind of does a lot of fucked up shit.
Yeah.
Every other color does some weird things in some way or some form.
It'll be, and I think like one of the things I think you can build to, and they don't have to be, not everything has to be a universe changing event for everything. Like obviously, eventually we're going to get a Crisis style movie. Right, and whether or not that's adapting, and we have the Anti-Monitor or Darkseid is a big villain, or is it going to be Reverse Flash? I mean, Reverse Flash has solidified himself as not just a great Flash villain, but as somebody who can alter the entire universe because of his hatred towards Barry. You also have
iconic villain for DC is Reverse
it
Flash.
really is.
I mean, I don't know if I could. I mean, like Joker, Doomsday. Reverse Flash. I think he's right in there. Another one, Grodd. I would love to see Grodd.
No, and that's what I was going to say. I would love to see a great. Let's do another Flash movie and make Grodd the villain, or even the Rogues. Captain Cold is a great character.
Yeah, I mean, Flash has a really good Rogues gallery.
He does,
and they're also the most interesting. What superhero has like a pact with their villains?
Yeah.
Like,
and that's what makes them so interesting.
Yeah, and they respect it too. Like they don't break the rules, and if anybody does, they take it upon themselves to get rid of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting to where the kind of relationship Flash has with his rogues gallery, to where they listen to him. He's like, y'all can commit crimes, but like don't go too far, just don't do certain things. And I'll stop you, but I won't.
I could see like Flash having to work with the rogues because Grodd is just like, Grodd's a powerhouse,
He is a powerhouse. I mean, he's been known to take out guys like the Flash, Barry, and Wally as well. He's even gone against Superman.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, Grodd's a great villain that should be explored. I think he could do a great job of giving us some kind of fucking Planet of the Apes DC superhero movie,
which would be awesome. I think there's other aspects which could be interesting, could not be, and there's some controversial crossovers that people aren't fans of, but I think could be cool to see. Again, because of the multiverse thing that they're doing, you have Dr. Manhattan. You also have, Dream. You have like the whole Sandman side of the DC universe, which is really cool with Dream and Morpheus. And like, let's say you want to do just a cameo crossover, you don't have to redo Watchmen. You have the movie, you have the show that happened. So you don't have to recast Dr. Manhattan. You can have like DC Rebirth, as controversial as it was, Dr. Manhattan was the player behind all that. Dream and the Endless and all the rest of them have popped up throughout different runs. And they have the Sandman show on Netflix, so it's not like you have to recast and whatever. That's just a different aspect of the universe, you could say. There's just so many characters that they can pull from, and so many ways that they can cameo and make this multiverse thrive.
When you say pulling from like guys like Sandman and Constantine, I really hope they kind of go through like that whole Justice League Dark kind of version of their universe. I would love to see people like Zatanna come to the spotlight.
Dr. Fate.
Constantine, Dr. Fate. Even though we just saw him, I'd like to see him done a little better. Which actually he wasn't bad. I'll retract that. He wasn't bad. I have
a couple. Etrigan the Demon.
Etrigan's a great one.
Deadman.
Deadman. We're gonna bring in Raven, Trigon for sure.
Trigon's a villain that it's so funny to me that Trigon is just a Titans villain when he's clearly like a league, like world shattering level villain.
But he's their version of a big bad.
Yeah.
Which also with the Titans, we're almost definitely gonna get Deathstroke or Slade or whatever you'd like to call him as you refer to him, comparing to who he's going against that day.
And that's where I want to see him, not in the Batman movie. I want to see Slade be in the Teen Titans movie.
In Titans, yeah.
Yeah. We've already seen Starro. Starro's kind of corny, but kind of cool. And I think they handled it well in the Suicide Squad. I'm hoping we get more Suicide Squad stuff. Clearly, that's a moneymaker for DC. Oh
yeah, no, for sure. I think it's gonna be really interesting when at some point we're gonna have 3 Jokers running around.
Yeah. Well, and then like
nobody can help themselves but to making the Joker, and so the new DC universe is gonna do it. Reeves how
long before like the Batman Who Laughs shows up?
100%.
So then it's like
they're gonna eventually combine all the universes and do the 3 Joker storyline,
which would just be fucking insane.
Great book, awful line, awful storyline, good book,
awful. Yeah, there's a lot of potential, and I think it's just where do they go and how far do they take it, and I know a lot of people have given up hope, and a lot of people aren't hopeful that the new DC universe is going to be good because of what we've gotten in the past and where they are.
I have hope. They're cleaning up shop and they're moving forward, and I think they're bringing in the right people to do so. I think I think they're going to do well at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well,
I think
here's going to be one of like the telling points where it's like if we get like a Teen Titans movie and like Beast Boy isn't green and doesn't transform, and when we do transform, he's only a tiger. Like that's going to be the point where I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna take a huge step back, and watch this play out from the sidelines. No shade towards any current projects that may have or be doing such storylines.
Yeah. No, I agree. Or like if you made Starfire, shoot out fire instead of green beams, and then eventually made it blue.
Yeah, no, I mean, has Starfire had fire powers that match that they were orange or whatever? Yeah, she's had that. But to just completely take away like the green energy bolts and making her weird that they make her eyes green though when she uses her powers.
Yeah, but then they still changed her powers to blue.
Well, yeah.
I don't think you ever got that far in Titans.
No, I had to stop. I had to stop. It was too much.
Or if you make like Batman look like he just like killed himself, and then have Jason come back a day after he died, and he's teaming up for Scarecrow for some reason. Yeah,
he
never died.
He just got addicted to fear toxin.
Yeah. That's when I might stop watching something, but also apparently not.
What would be kind of cool too? I really like the idea from Young Justice of them having like a den mother, like somebody appointed from the league to watch them, and I could definitely see that being Cyborg. Now that like, especially if they're already aged up, I could see Cyborg being the one that has to come in and like, instead of was it Red Tornado in the
Red Tornado.
Having Cyborg come in, so then it's like, oh, we're getting that idea of Cyborg being part of the Titans again, and he's having to watch over. And then you could still kind of get that friendship between him, depending on, like we said, how old is Beast Boy? Is he the same age? Is he de-aged again?
Probably de-aged again.
But Cyborg just turning into a kid again, just hanging out with Beast Boy when he should be serious.
Probably. I think we're running close on time. I just wanted to run one more question by you, and that is, with all the slates that we have coming out, or things that you have hopes are coming out for, do you have any dream castings for things?
I don't really know. I don't know who to cast as Superman. I'm going to be honest. I don't know who comes in and takes on that mantle. I'm still very
easy.
hurt.
Chris Evans.
Yeah, he's free. He's free, right?
He's free. He's not doing anything.
Are we just going to poach all the people who are no longer working for Marvel? Downey's going to be Batman.
Yeah. We still can't get Chris, so we're going to make like Liam Hemsworth Aquaman.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I have any dream castings for it. I think like as hopeful as I am, I'm also like kind of burnt out with the constant reboot from DC that like I'm just once we get like the short list of like, oh, these are the people they're talking to for like Superman. These are the people they're talking to for Batman. I'm assuming we're going to get a new Wonder Woman. Like these are the people they're talking to for Wonder Woman. At that point, I can say, okay, I want this guy. I think
I actually like Gal as Wonder Woman. I'm sad to see her go.
I did like Gal as Wonder Woman, but part of me also feels like, listen, if you're gonna reboot. Like Marvel is doing it with Fox, with all of the Fox stuff with X-Men. Obviously, we're gonna get some multiverse stuff, but I don't think he was gonna continue to play Wolverine after. But Ryan Reynolds is going to stay on as Deadpool, and I think that makes sense. You keeping Viola Davis as Amanda Waller makes sense to me. Nobody else is going to play that role the same way.
It's true. I only brought this up to argue with you. Jensen Ackles
I know
for
you
Batman.
did. I know you did, and I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it. I don't want Jensen Ackles as Batman. No,
Jensen
absolutely
Ackles
not.
for Batman. He already
No.
voiced him. He already voiced him.
He also voiced Red Hood, and I don't think we should be bringing him in
He's
to
too
play
old
Jason
to
Todd.
do that shit. He's a Batman-aged person.
I do not agree.
He is a dark, brooding badass that has family values. That is Batman.
It's unoriginal. It's
You're
just
unoriginal.
there's no vision there. You just want him to continue to play Dean, but in a bat suit, and I don't think that is the way to go.
I think it's proven to be a moneymaker.
If you want to
I
see
think
him
it's
play,
proven to make
if
money.
you want to see him play dark, brooding, and just a superhero, watch The Boys and see him play Soldier Boy. There you go. You can see him play the
It's not the
Batman,
same.
Captain America.
It's not the same.
It's
Black Noir was supposed to be Batman. How is now Jensen Batman and Captain America?
because. Okay, I'm not doing this. You want to cast Dean Winchester as Batman, and Jared Padalecki is going to play I don't know who, Alfred. Just the
You're
worst.
onto something.
Can he do a British? Can he do a British accent?
Can he do a British accent?
Well, let's see. Can he do a British accent? Actually, this is actually a really important casting. Who's gonna play Alfred?
I don't know. We've had good castings for Alfred so far.
Yeah.
I
Even
think it's
Jeremy
hard to miss.
Irons, I thought was,
yeah.
and like Andy Serkis now in the Reeves verse. Like, I think especially with the DC universe, like aside
Dude,
from the
just pick
Reeves verse,
any old British guy will work.
bring Michael Caine back.
Yeah.
Arguably one of the best Alfreds. Yeah.
Oh, he was the best. He was the best. Any old British guy will work.
Ian McKellen.
Well,
Too old.
maybe.
Patrick Stewart. Could you take him seriously?
No,
Just knowing he's Professor X?
never. Can never take Patrick Stewart seriously. However, I think that is all the time we have today. So thank you guys for tuning into this episode of the Beer and Skittles podcast. We thank you
Get
for
it out there.
listening, and yeah. We'll see you guys next week.
Next week, I think we plan on taking a deeper dive into Marvel. We'll be talking more what is on their slate because we actually know and what to anticipate. But
yeah, so talking about the ups and downs of Marvel as of
current
late.
Yeah.
So you'll see good compare and contrast of our thoughts of DC and thoughts of Marvel. So I would suggest listening to both of them, especially as a superhero fan. And then after that, we'll probably get off the superhero train for a little bit so we don't get stuck in there. And yeah.
Thank you guys for listening.